everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast with Sandra J. Horton, the Growth Catalyst. All right. Hello, everyone. Today it's Friday, and it's almost the end of October. I can't believe it. Fridays are my favorite days because I get to come live, and today I have an exceptional guest on the Leadership Heart podcast. Someone who vibes so high, who has done so much for so many. So my beautiful guest, I'm going to bring up Reverend Joya Sosnowski up to the beautiful stage with me now. And I absolutely love, hello, beautiful Joya. I want to introduce you because I have to read this because you have so much that you do. And oh my gosh. So you are a divinely gifted, and I know this, you are divinely gifted sound channel and throat chakra voice activator. And importantly, is that she's committed to bridging spirituality, science, and psychology, which I think is so powerful, through your studies of quantum and neuroscience, and through your studies of Aramaic teachings of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. In addition, she's also certified in so many different beautiful things as a reverend in the realm of sound healing, and she's a Divine Sciences New Thought Reverend, a USM spiritual psychology coach. Wow. And a certified mindfulness trainer. So all the things, your heart, your mind, you have this beautifully covered. And importantly, is that your mission in life is the liberation from suffering. And to see I'm going to probably say this wrong, my beautiful friend, Napsha or soul self, to awaken and express in every human being. Powerful. And her website, so please make sure you do check out our beautiful friend, is www.vibologie.com. So Miss Joya, before we begin, would you please grace this beautiful opportunity for us to be together, to play your beautiful chimes, to bring in all that powerful energy? Because I know us two together we're gonna vibe high. So
oh my gosh.
I pass it over to you.
I so will. And thank you for asking me to do that, because you know that vibration speaks louder than words. So these two beautiful bowls wanted to come out.
Thank you, Joya. How beautiful
So
is this opportunity for us today to be together. And, Joya, you're such a gift, but I want to dive right in because this is the Leadership Heart podcast. And it's about that heart-centered leadership. And for some individuals who may be listening now or listening later, connecting to our heart. We've all been in this journey. How have you been able to connect to your heart to truly live and lead the way you do? Like, what can you take us through that little journey? It's a big question, but it's one I want to start with because I know we're going to unpack that.
Well, you know what? It's a beautiful question. And I love being in the place that I'm at now so that I can help other people open their hearts, because I know what it feels like to have a blocked heart. And growing up the way that I did with so much trauma, Sandra, and I tried to solve everything through my mind. So thus all of my pursuits and all of my studies and all of my certifications that came from the mind. and trying to understand through the mind. But it was through doing all of the work of the mind that I came to a very still point within, where it was that kind of that point of, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Who is doing the looking? Who is doing the observing? Who is this self that's changing? Who is this self that is conscious of me? Like, who is this thing that I'm calling me, that I'm dragging along through life, these experiences? If I know that my cells change and my thoughts change and my behaviors can change, which means my outcomes can change,
Mm-hmm.
who's changing? And it really, the answer to that was really calling for me to come back home into my body. Was
Mm-hmm.
really how I felt that needed to happen, was this landing that needed to come back into the body. And I began to recognize all of the ways that I was numbing feeling.
Mm.
And so I just,
I can relate to that one. Like
right?
numbing is a big piece, isn't it,
So big.
for many people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I definitely was numbing, and so the problem, of course, comes like when you have a lot of trauma, like I did as a child, and I found really creative, wonderful ways to keep myself numb so that I couldn't feel intensely. I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel anything. That
Mhm.
when life started to grow and expand, and a vision of life started calling me forward through all of my work in mindfulness and all of these works that I was doing. And when I say that I had a closed heart, it wasn't closed to outside people. Like, I love my children very much. I love my friends very much. I love my husband very much. I'm talking about self-love, deep,
Mm.
deep self-love, of that deep feeling of reverence and feeling connected. For me, it was feeling very connected to something besides just my thoughts, just my self-identifications. And those numbing agents started coming up. And so I committed to stop numbing. And when I
Mhm.
committed to stop numbing, what began to arise was panic and anxiety. And I thought that was a really interesting response, because
Mhm.
what I realized was that, oh, this is the damage that happens when we numb ourselves, that when we're numbing ourselves from one experience, right? And something is calling us forward in life and we experience fear, then we react with that unconscious behavior, because the energy of fear is the energy of fear. So then I
Mhm.
would go into self-sabotage. And then I would be like, why am I self sabotaging? I don't have any reason to be doing this. And it was because my heart wasn't completely opened. I wasn't allowing the feelings of everything that was there to be as it was in the present moment, with what
Mm.
is, without that need, or that feeling like I needed to change that fear state. And when I stopped numbing, was when I was able to face the anxiety,
Mhm.
began to practice really deeper self-love practices of calming down my nervous system, breathing, allowing myself to just feel however I felt, let it arise, let it leave the body, all that stored old
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah, it's important.
And then my heart really opened and I just fell so in love, not just with myself and that's why I say I'm a sound channel, because that's how it feels to me. The more I've gotten myself out of the way and have opened my heart, the more it feels like there's this vibration or this other consciousness that flows through me, this intelligence that I'm tapping into from the universe that I consciously can't conjure up or do myself.
So it's really interesting, Joy. You know, what I heard you say, which is really interesting for many individuals. So whether you identify as a leader or not, just think of yourself for this moment. What I heard you say is that there were signs, there were habits, there were things that were happening external and internal that for whatever reason we chose not to listen to them. We perhaps avoided them or we became numb to them because we weren't processing something inside. And I think this is really key for the Leadership Heart podcast. It's learning to awaken. Now, I know I'm just going to tangent a little bit because I think this is really key for this conversation today, is for people just to take that breath to start to understand and become more self-aware of these things. So what exactly were, or can you suggest maybe some strategies for people how to become aware of this, like even as that's starting, because this is a journey, you know,
Right.
of evolving, of growing, right? So can you give maybe a couple strategies for people just to start us at that point, if you could?
Well, I say when I'm teaching mindfulness to people that I say the very act of choosing to practice mindfulness meditation is the very act of rewiring your brain. It all
Mhm.
starts with the practices. And so it's in doing the practices and in dedicating ourselves and committing that we're going to start doing these practices that it literally starts to create a space for self-awareness to arise, because we've
Mhm.
we've now created that space to go from reacting instantly and going into our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. And instead, we create a space that we can go, what is this? What is this
Mhm.
triggering response that's happening? And awareness is totally the key. And so what I teach everybody is the whole point of mindfulness practice and mindfulness meditation. You don't have to close your eyes to meditate. The whole point of mindfulness is it's called metacognition, which is you become aware that you're being aware. And you know what I mean,
I
right? So it's
totally
like
get you.
when
I
you know
do.
that you're aware that you're
Yeah.
being aware, then you keep that awareness for as long as you can. You make it a game. And so you're
Yeah.
like, okay, how long can I be aware right now? I'm going to notice my
Mhm.
senses. I'm going to notice what I'm feeling. I'm going to notice what I'm touching, what I'm smelling, what I'm hearing, what I'm tasting, because that's the entry point is our senses, and
Mhm.
they're only in now. And you gamify it. And so you really practice that for as long as you can until your mind is boop, wandered off and now it's off doing its thing again. And so then every time you notice that you're noticing, then you go, oh, now is where I practice noticing.
I love that, and I think that's really a powerful first step for many, many people because, I reflect back into my journey for 34 years, I was numb. I was like up here. I was all about the intellect and not dealing with my past traumas. And until I awoke and made that choice to shift and to change. And then that next step, which, in conscious leadership, I always say my 3 L's, right? So you have to learn, which is learning to go within, learning about yourself. And then you move to living and then leading. So now that, what I've heard you say is we're waking up, we're starting to do these things, and you do a lot of this mindfulness work and help support so many people. And then you're moving them now into this integration phase. So, what are the next steps that you found in your personal journey? You shared a little bit about being aware of the fear kind of, hate to use the word fear factor, but the kind of that fear, the anxiety, because they're different, but yet the same. And some
Right.
people may interpret them differently. So, can we kind of go into that? Like, what can people do today to remove fear or at least learn to manage, cope, assess it differently?
Well, I use sound. That's my favorite method. Sound is super powerful because it's been the most profound thing that's helped me to shift and heal in a very, very fast amount of time. I mean, compared to the years of mindfulness practice and trying to just read books and do all these
Yeah.
mental practices, to work with sound where it literally vibrates your cells. It literally vibrates who you're being. And so when you use your voice or you use sound, if you listen to a sound meditation, that it puts your brain into entrainment so that you can quiet your busy thoughts and then you can allow your nervous system to rest and reset. So if
Mhm.
you go into a sound healing, a sound bath, a sound meditation, and before you go into that meditation, you set an intention to heal and clear and release any unconscious blocks. Now, here's what I have found to be the most powerful thing in the world for me, Sandra, is that when I was experiencing all of these blocks and all of the self sabotage episodes that kept coming up, and I knew that it was because I wasn't feeling anything. And I asked, what if the problem is I can't heal myself with just my head? What if my unconscious brain is not in my head brain? What if my whole body is
Mhm.
my unconscious brain?
Yeah.
And so then that sent me on a quest to answer that question. And in finding that the whole body is the unconscious brain, that when we have emotions, they happen everywhere in the body all at once. And so they get stuck and stored there. So
Mhm.
when we're growing, when we're expanding, when we're stepping into bigger positions of leadership, and we all know that to grow as a leader requires more of you to show up in who you're being, right? It's not in what we're
It
doing
is.
or saying,
Mhm.
it's the being, the living in, and
Yeah.
as you said, that those unconscious fears that are in the body are now overriding the conscious mind. And that's why we slip into self sabotage or anxiety or depression or whatever it is that we're doing to numb and to help ourselves, but it's not healthy. It's not working. So sound, if you go in and you set your intention for this healing and this clearing and this releasing, well, then you just allow yourself the dignity of the process of whatever arises. If you feel like crying, you cry. If you feel like being angry and screaming, you go somewhere where you can do
You
that.
do it.
Let it
I
out.
remember doing
Because
that one
it's
time.
energy. It's stuck
Yeah.
energy that's in the body.
True.
And to
Yeah.
really give yourself permission to be very present with what is without feeling like you need to change it. And then what I like to do and what I have people do who have a lot of anxiety or who have a lot of fear or a lot of trauma that's in the body and they're working with this is to simply just pat your chest on
Tapping.
your thymus,
Doing a little tapping.
do a little tapping. And I also like to just, and bring in a little hum. So you feel it in your chest and just go,
Yep.
shh, 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 shh. I'm safe. I'm safe. Shh, 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 shh. And it feels good and it calms down your nervous system instantly.
That's so powerful. And I thank you for these amazing practices, because this is what is so powerful for anyone who may be listening now or later, on the podcast, is to listen and then make the choice to truly, I use the word very purposefully, to make the intention to use these or invite them in, giving yourself that grace and space. And I think that's a really key, powerful question that I'm going to bring around this is, how have you been able to balance, because you have this amazing neuroscience background and you also have this spiritual background that you are now beautifully brought into, not only of discernment, but of integration. Do you have any recommendations? So as we're starting to live this, we were understanding we need to open up our heart. We need to vibe high. We need to bring in all these possible opportunities. But yet maybe our rational brain is saying, hey, I'm not kind of sure. So do you have any strategies or suggestions or tips for leaders, for individuals on how do I integrate this? Are there some ways? Is it just time? Like, what is that process, or what has your process been to really move your life so you're integrating all those sides together?
That's a great question. And it's in the daily practices, right?
Yeah.
It's a gentle unfolding that happens. Because even a year ago, Sandra, if somebody told me that I would be doing the things that I'm doing now, I
Mhm.
would not have been, I would have freaked out. I wasn't the person who could do it. So it's really it's committing to daily practice, committing to daily practice and showing up for yourself first. And I've really come to make my hour in the morning. I spend an hour of
Wow.
practice in doing my hip releases that I do for my body to help release trauma from the body, along with chanting, along with my drumming, my mantras, my meditation. I spend an hour, but I also know that that's the most important work that I will do all day.
It
And
is, it's true, right? Like, it's setting
yeah,
ourselves up for success. It's really directing our mind. Now, I'm going to shift us a little bit more into the release of the egoic way. So in our pre-programmed way that most individuals are raised with, we don't really begin to go within until perhaps a circumstance or a situation, something really shocks us into a reality that, oh, I need to change, right? But our subconscious mind, which again resonates throughout our whole body, we're on a cellular level. We're
yes.
used to these habits, these patterns. So, what have you done, or what ways have you found successful beyond just your habits and your ways of doing? What about clearing? I'd love for you to share on that. So, I believe leaders need to be able to clear, release, let go so that they're present for people. They're able to invite in possibilities and opportunities. So, how do you rid your body of perhaps this pent up energy or fear, anxiety, so that you're present, if I may ask that?
I sound it out always. I'm a big advocate for
I love it.
sounding it out, and that's what
Yeah.
I tell people. And it's really remarkable to me, having people who come into my studio that I'm working with one on one. That when I first have them start making
Mm.
authentic sound from the body, which isn't pretty. You're not trying to sing. You're not trying to impress anybody.
Right.
You're just letting stuff
Let it out. I love it.
letting it out, that they're so uncomfortable. It feels like
Yeah.
getting naked. And so
Yeah.
it's
It's true.
really, it's somebody told me a long time ago, a couple of years ago, actually. And she said, the things you do in private are the things that matter most.
That's
And
powerful.
it's so true, because as leaders, especially, we have to be clean in your energy. It's like because you're in integrity with yourself, that you don't sacrifice your own morals, your own values, your own what you want, your own vision
Mhm.
for anything less than that. And it's really about it's falling into this sense of trust that you've
Mm.
got your own back, and that
That's so
also that
huge.
the universe, and the way that I believe in being a divine sciences minister and reverend is that it's all one thing. I believe in the omnipresence of spirit, that it's everywhere, it's everything. So that means that I am also it and you are also it. And we are living expressions of it. And therefore, to live from ego, which is fearful,
Mhm.
literally makes no sense. And I think about a redwood tree is always what comes to mind when I think about my own expression, that I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
all I want in life is to be the meest me I can be. So what does
Oh, I
that,
love that.
right?
Me me of
And you to
love.
be the youest you can
Yeah.
be. And I
Yeah.
think of the redwood tree and how they grow so big and so wide and so tall, and they're just so huge because they're being the treeiest tree they can be. They're being the biggest design of what they're meant to be that they can be. And that's, for me, that's the energy that I want to live into. And that's the energy I want everyone to feel like they live into, because that's how we lead. And it really comes with leading yourself first. And that really means learning to totally trust yourself. Like,
Mm.
self-trust goes a long way.
And I think, that's a really important piece about raising our consciousness. And I always say it's igniting the flame of self-love.
Yes.
And so if we tap in, when we tap in, because the potential is right here, right now, you can choose to say, okay, I'm making the choice to go within. And so I'm going to open up. I'm going to open up to possibilities. I'm going to channel, and I'm going to face whatever I need to face. And I'm going to release whatever I need to release. And in those moments, that's where that beautiful growth comes from. And
Mm.
so Joy, I know you're doing a lot of really important work and bringing women and men together, or maybe perhaps it's just women, and you're going to be bringing an amazing summit, I understand, in January to beautiful Arizona. So can you kind of just dive into that? Because I believe that some people, and I've loved to go to beautiful retreats where I just take that time to self-love, to self-care, to open myself up to possibilities. Tell me about it, and what would people learn? How can they join you? Because I want to make sure we have enough time to really allow people to learn about this.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate that. It's really literally a vision that I woke up from sleep a year and a half ago. And in my dream, I saw myself on a stage, and I looked out, and there was just people as far as you could see, and everybody was singing one note. And I could see these beautiful cymatics, which is science. It's the science of sound made visible. You can actually see the sounds that are made, and that they're being imprinted onto the field of consciousness and spreading out across the planet. And it was such a vivid vision. And so I asked my higher self, I said, is this something you want me to do? And it felt like a big fat yes. And so for this last year now, over a year, I have been doing the work of becoming the woman who could do this event.
Love it.
Not only was it a dream and a vision, but it was also something that really called me forth to step into a much bigger um,
Mhm.
level of growth for myself. And so the event is called, it's not a retreat, it's actually a daytime,
Oh,
like
cool.
it's a half day event. And you
Okay.
could think of it as like a conscious Coachella. And so
Oh, I
what it
love that.
Yes,
That's
because
awesome.
anybody who knows me knows that I love music. Music is everything to me. It always has
Yeah.
been since I was
Yeah.
a wee little baby. And music is powerful. It brings people together. And so it's really the power of community and music coming together. So what we're going to do, it's called Vibe Razor. It's in Mesa, Arizona at the Sunkissed Warehouse, which is 100-year-old factory that used to be where they had all the oranges. It's so beautiful.
Oh, neat.
And yeah, we're going to start with a conscious chant, everybody singing together, one note. We're going to bring our hearts into coherence. I'm in partnership with HeartMath Institute.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So they're going to measure, it's going to be on their app so we can broadcast it around the world so that everybody can participate into bringing their hearts into that coherence. And it's measurable. It's a measurable thing. It's real. So
It's real.
we're
It's
going to
real.
do that and sing and hold that
Yeah.
intention for love and peace, first for ourselves and then for our community, the people around us, and then just visualizing it going out all over the world to everybody. And then after that, I have a band called Mamuse, who Mamuse. They're absolutely beautiful women who sing the most beautiful music. So they're going to lead us in a concert that'll be very interactive so we can sing with. And then followed by DJ Taz Rashid, who's a conscious DJ, is going to bring up some music and we'll have a conscious dance party. So
Wow. I'm in.
yeah,
Pick
I know.
me.
It's going to
Pick
be
me.
so much fun. And
It's so cool.
yeah, there's still tickets are on sale at vibraiser.com, vibraiser.com.
Mhm.
And I'm also in just today found out in partnership with a Unity Church up in Sacramento, California, that are partnering to help spread the word. So hopefully that will
Oh,
spread into
wonderful.
more of the Unity churches, which I love the philosophy of unity, that it's that welcoming of everybody, welcoming of all
Mhm.
beliefs, that we're all one, we're all here we're all here on the same spaceship Earth, so we can make it a better place.
I absolutely love that, and I know we have about 4 minutes left, and for some individuals who may be listening today, they may still have that confusion about when we speak about consciousness.
Hmm.
And I want people to walk away going, "Oh, I understand that now." And if I choose to be more conscious, aware of self, or, I want you to define that in your beautiful, knowledgeable space that you hold. Could you share with people what would the benefits be to them to move in and raise their own personal consciousness?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I literally had the question drop into my consciousness that asked, what quality of vibration of consciousness do you want animating your body? Because in reality, every 10 years, we are literally not the same person. All of our cells have turned over in our whole body, except for the cells in our hippocampus region, our memory. So, this
Mhm.
memory is what's telling us who we are, what's real, what our consciousness is. But we are free to change it. We are
Yeah.
completely free to change it, because when we change our perspective, as Dr. Wayne Dyer said, when you
Yeah.
change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And everybody goes through those experiences where they have that consciousness shift, where they
Mhm.
think something is one way, but then they realize it's not. And that we can actually choose, what quality of consciousness we want in our body. We choose it with
Mhm.
our attitudes. We choose it with our mindset. We choose it with our emotional responses to things. We choose it with our awareness and our ability to be present. And my favorite saying for people who wonder about the quality of consciousness from a spiritual perspective is, I heard John Randolph Price, he said, and I personally don't like the word God because I have a hang up around it. So I say the universe. So he said, the universe is all of me, but I am not all of the universe. And
Mm.
that for me really helped me to understand that.
That's beautiful, and that's so powerful, and I love just, before we do wrap up this podcast is, you do a lot of work as well with understanding as you go within, you learn about your energy centers, and you have your beautiful picture behind about the different chakras and how as we clear, as we elevate, as we move, and as I'm doing this, clearing myself as I go, um, conscious leaders understand that the more present we are, the greater our potential is to be of service, not to ourselves, but to others. And the greatest thing that I have found in connecting with you as well, Joya, is you're so heart centered. You always anchor yourself in your beautiful heart, asking yourself, listening to yourself, because I always know if I don't, guess what? I'm in here, and then I may
Mm.
not make the right decisions, and I don't like to put a judgment on it, but perhaps not the best informed decisions. But if I'm questioning or if I'm wanting to understand, if I go within my heart, in my heart space, which is aligned to all of my body, and if I'm flowing high and vibing high, I will get that download because have also, transformed and has transcended. Like I'm just in a beautiful space now that I attract more and I manifest more. And there's so much more opportunity to be of service, to have your voice heard, to make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about you and what you're doing. So as we close, how can people get a hold of you? Because I know so many people want to learn more about your beautiful services that you offer. And then as we close, before I put on the music, if you can close us out with some beautiful sound, as I always
Sure.
do, to
Happy
bring
to.
in that energy. And then after that is rung once, then I'll put on our closing remarks. So how can they get a hold of you first, Joya?
Well, first, I want to say thank you so much, Sandra, for being the uplifting leader that you are and your beautiful gift of always seeing and bringing out the best in everybody around you. It's such a beautiful gift that you have. And I just so appreciate that about you. So thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, people can get a hold of me at vibology.com. That's my personal website, VIBOLOGIE.com. And then, of course, vibrazer.com is where you can get the tickets for the event. It's on 1/22/23. How fun is that day? 1/22.
That's pretty cool.
And, and I love what you just said, because nobody cares what you think. Nobody cares what you think, but everybody cares about how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And that's very true. So thank you, Sandra, for having me.
I thank you. We'll close out now with some joy. Thank you.
Peace, everybody.
Thank you, Joya. We'll see everyone next week with Dr. Yasmin Sad, who will be on this beautiful podcast. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Miss Joya.
Bye.